had some frustrating lessons.
Yeah.
Maybe more specifically on ads, that it doesn't have to be pretty or on brand.
Really?
Which is frustrating, because I think the highest converting ads I've ever done have looked
We are kind of live now. This is what I always wanted to say. We are live.
and we're officially live.
We are officially live, exactly. I mean, this is just an experiment.
Hello. Welcome back, Nick, to our my favorite time, and I know it is yours, Design Table Podcast episode. New one in the bank.
Yes. I like that bank. It's indeed my favorite time of the week as well.
Yeah. And I think this episode, we're going to be spilling some of the sauce. I think collectively, I think we each have like a decade of experience in terms of doing design things in general.
Yep.
And today we're going to be spilling the tea on conversion hacks that we've had over that long decade of our experience. Getting into like things like ads, checkouts, upsells, all the things, which I'm excited to dive in with you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Very exciting, because this is where you make the money as a designer for yourself or for your customers, your manager, your whoever. So this is going to be a very important one. So I really urge your listeners to take a seat and pay close attention to it.
Buckle up, get ready.
Yeah. Exactly.
Perfect. I think we're going to jump into ads, because that's long-standing history with ads. Started out making flash banner ads back in the day, all the way up to like JPEGs, PNGs, statics. Though I'm not so sure what we're doing, if we're still doing flash banner ads. I hope not.
No. Well, I started with flash banners as well. And I remember like from really early days that back then we were already talking about banner blindness and that kind of stuff, which is probably something you would consider when wanting to create a high converting advertising somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's when it was the height of when Google paid ads were working really well. To your point, they were not. I think at least for us independently, like seeing an ad, I'm never clicking on that thing. But I think they were super useful.
Same.
Back in the day, or at least they converted really well. They probably are useful, I guess. I know the content game has become king nowadays, but I think they're still useful as well.
I think you can see that they aren't working as well as they used to work, because you see, for example, YouTube ads, they're longer, in terms of duration. So I feel like that's a way to earn more money. Like, let's just show them longer. And then the longer you display them, the more likely someone is to click, maybe out of boredom.
Yeah.
And that might be because of the underlying issue of people being sick and tired of ads.
Yeah. I think they're more useful for retargeting, to be fair. I think they're like, once you've seen the initial ad, like what's the rule? Once you've had at least 11 touch points, then you'll be tempted to buy, but it's only after those 11 touch points. So a banner ad can cross off at least one or two of those 11 that needs to be crossed.
Yeah. Do you think it's helpful for our audience to learn some of the keywords there, like retargeting and ROI and that kind of stuff, or do we think they know what it is?
We can go over it.
Yeah.
We can go over, at least from we can go over like what that looks like. So initially you have top of funnel. We're talking about like not being unaware of the brand per se at all.
Yeah.
And then just giving, whether that's a banner ad and an YouTube ad, just getting that first kind of touch point, understanding what the brand is. And once they've seen it at least once, people leverage something called a pixel, which essentially facilitates retargeting, which means just following up with subsequent ads that are not the first one they've seen. So they have a variation or a different pitch of the product that they'll see a couple times. So they'll have the initial one and then a set of 8 or 10 different variations over and over again until the please buy me action is crossed.
Yeah. So basically, conversion wise, you do not ask people to buy right away with the very first ad. It's more of becoming aware that you exist.
Yeah.
Right. And then at the end, you change the ads to be more call to action like.
Yeah, exactly. Because again, you're asking someone to buy something that they don't know, they've never heard of you. It's like if I came up to you randomly in the street and stopped you to buy my I don't know, my hot tub because I'm a hot tub owner randomly, you'd think I was strange. So, but I think you have to build up that rapport.
Yeah, true. I mean, you start with an ad of a nice summer evening and your hot tub, just setting the scene of, oh, that's nice after a warm day and after lots of work, you can just relax, but you're not showing anything about model numbers or whatever. Like that's something for retargeting. When someone's further down the funnel, I feel like these basic words are very important. Targeting, retargeting, top of funnel and lower in the funnel. So, I mean, how would you explain the funnel to someone?
A funnel is essentially just like problem, like brand unaware, never heard of you, and then maybe problem aware, but they need a solution, and then solution aware, and you're giving them that, and then the bottom end is where you kind of suck them in.
Right. Yeah. So it's basically like bringing someone on a river, like downstream, right? You start really, really broad, and then it becomes narrower, and then you try to convert them. So when you talk about conversion rate, like someone, I'm basically saying someone converts when they click and buy, So when you place an ad top of funnel and they don't click on it, they don't buy yet, it's not a lost conversion per se. Like they can still convert later on in the funnel.
Exactly. Because you're like, first there's awareness, and then there's like, oh, I'm interested, which is like the second rung. And then maybe I desire it a bit. You're reeling me in with and then the action is the click, which is the conversion piece.
Okay. I mean, so that's good to remember as well, that conversion doesn't need to mean a purchase. Like clicking on it can be a conversion goal as well. And you just have to be aware of what your goal is.
Exactly. Because it could be a purchase. That's like it could be a purchase. It can be a sign up as well. It just depends what the business sees as a win.
Yeah. That's something you have to, as a designer, when you work on this, I think you have to pay close attention to what the goal is for your stakeholder, and perhaps have like something like a kickoff meeting, talk with a marketing person if your company has a marketing department, perhaps, just so you align on the goals. I think that's very important for ads and landing pages and all the things we're going to discuss today.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, any hot tips for actually design the physical ad itself?
I think it's very important to be aware of the environment someone is in when they see the ad. So we drove to a theme park last Sunday, and then you have the on-ramp, like on the highway, and you make a turn, like it rotates, and then and like above the highway, you see this massive billboard. And then my wife and I were both reading the billboard. Like, that's super dangerous, actually. You're making a turn, speeding up, and then you're reading the thing, and then we are still discussing what the thing on the billboard said. So it really grabbed our attention. But we are in a car, so when it's a billboard, when you're driving, you're distracted. You need to have big letters, like the payoff from our ad needs to be clear right away. No small letters, that kind of stuff. And same thing applies for someone being outdoors on a festival, and they have the app, like the festival app, to order food or to look at the timing tables for performances. There might be bright sunlight. There's loud music in the background. So with that in mind, you might not have a video ad or something where sound is important because they cannot hear. Contrast has to be high because of the outdoor sun, or maybe it's raining the other way around. So it's very important to be aware, like, who's going to see this and where are they when they see this.
Very fair. So essentially, like a stop the scroll moment, depending whatever environment. I mean, stop the scroll is on your phone, but it's still that same strategy is applicable wherever you go, wherever that kind of ad pops up.
Yeah, true. And it might be a silly example, people being outdoor and people being in a car, but that's still advertising. Same thing is also very interesting on social media, where sometimes an ad really blends in with the application. You have this on Twitter and on Reddit. On Reddit, sometimes an ad just looks like a post or a comment underneath a post, and then you click on it because now, not sure about you, but when I go on Reddit, at least when I go through comments, I like to close the comments when I've read them, just to not be overwhelmed, and then I click on the advertisement by accident just to close them, and then it opens, and then I'm converted, because they are very well placed. But then at the same time, you have accidental clicks that makes people angry. So I'm not sure if that really is a good way to do things, but then also you don't want to make them too obvious of being an ad, because people might not click either, so not sure what the middle ground is there, but maybe you have something interesting to say there about blending in or standing out for an ad. Like, what's the best thing to do?
I'll tell you, probably not to blend in, because my son, whenever he uses his iPad, he watches
He's
YouTube.
3, right? 3 years old? 3 years?
He's 3 years old. Trying to limit the iPad, but when he does, he uses the kid version of it. So he has his Amazon Kids, his tablet, and they embed game ads that look like videos that he clicks on.
Yeah, that's annoying.
So if you want to hear from my son, he's frustrated because he's waiting for the video, not whatever you're trying to sell him, which he has. Yeah. He doesn't have the ability to purchase or convert as much as I think the business is trying to serve those ads are.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good idea to be clear that this is something that it's an ad and I'm trying to sell you something, but make me a good offer or hook me in with a good piece of copy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, I think that's very important. I mean, we could go on and on about ads, but isn't the landing page basically one big ad?
It is. I think it's all a flow, right? So like once you've seen the ad, you're going to click it and you go somewhere. And generally it's to some kind of landing page. And that could be different depending on the service that you're providing. So for e-commerce, that could just be a product page. And then it could be a t-shirt, choose your size, check out, and you're good to go. It could be for a SaaS product or a service. But in general, I think there's some good hacks and tricks that we've learned over the couple of years to optimize that landing page. I think that's the crux of the entire experience. It's a landing page, which is essentially just a pitch for your business. So it generally contains like a hero. It's like, here's the big thing that we want you to buy. Here's the giant H1 title, which is the hook. It can often contain a video, maybe just like a video explainer of what the product is. It could be a VSL, which is a video sales letter of just someone pitching the product or service. And then it goes into just like the benefits for you as the user. It can be quite lengthy. And I'm seeing the theme now among a lot of businesses is the longer the landing page, the better. I'm not sure if you've seen the same.
Well, that's what I wanted to say. I'm not sure if people actually mentioned it as a goal, like let's make it as long as we can and as thorough as we can. But I do notice that some experts, that I know that are very successful in what they do, they have landing pages where I'm like, will this ever end? Like it keeps going and going and going. I myself usually try to keep it short because people don't really have the time. People don't really like to read the whole thing. So I'm not sure what the theory is there. Like, is it actually proven to make it longer, to explain more?
I think the theory is that like you haven't been convinced yet. So there's more to be convincing. So generally your landing page is sprinkled with CTAs or your button, which will drive you to, which is the conversion facilitator. But generally you have, again, like the hero is like the emotional part. Like, if I don't get you with the emotion, then I have to get you with the logical part, which is like, here are the different things. Here's why you should buy. Here are the different features it has, etc. And generally, if you keep scrolling, you haven't been convinced yet. So that's part of the strategy that I've heard, is that you just keep on trying to convince them until eventually they click. So the strategy there is the longer the better, because if you're short and you haven't convinced them, they're going to bounce, which is another term. Bouncing means just leaving the page.
Yeah, quite literally, they bounce away. Yeah, well, I can see that theory being true for something very expensive, like a coaching service or a design service, basically, when there's a lot of talk about like how does this work and what if I don't like it, and how the step-by-step approach and that kind of thing, or a very expensive course or boot camp perhaps. But I don't think it needs to be very long when you're buying like a throwaway item, a cheap thing that you can get everywhere.
That's true.
Let's say clothing or t-shirt or whatever. So yeah. But I'm curious, like you sometimes see these posts on LinkedIn where someone is trying to be an expert, like here's the anatomy of a landing page, and then they start to explain all these things you need to put on a landing page, and I think we all get it. But what's the secret here to a good landing page? Or from a designer's perspective, let's say you're going to work on a landing page, what will you do all the time?
I think there's a difference between, I think we need to make a distinction between like what a website is and what a landing page is. I think they have two different functions. I think we get trapped in thinking that like you build a website and its core function is conversion, when in reality, it's more of like a business card. It's this proof that the business exists. A landing page has one specific function, which is to convert.
Okay.
To move someone past these different stages. So the last stage of the funnel. I think top 3 things that are important for building a great landing page is, number 1 is having great copy. I think that's underrated. I think it's the top thing you should focus on, which is like, number 1, it's your title, your subtitle, then the copy that's on the button or the CTA. Those are like the most important things. And then 4th might be an image of your product or a video, which is even better.
Mm-hmm.
I think over the years, focusing on buttons has been something that I spent a long time on, because believe it or not, the shade, the color, whether or not the button has an arrow pointing right, has increased or decreased the conversion rate. So you can get quite nerdy in types of, and how you craft the landing page.
Right.
And then we can get into experimentation afterwards as well.
So what's the best button?
So it depends. What I've seen is the green button is the winner in all cases. There's the holy grail of the green button, white text, white arrow pointing right. You've probably seen it across the board, but it should probably reflect the brand colors. If you want to keep that brand consistency and build trust, it probably should be in line with the brand, because it's going to be, it's what they're going to be experiencing after like they click that button, which is the checkout process, the receiving the product, and then whatever emails they receive, the experience after the click. And I think it should be super consistent.
Right. All right. And you mentioned copy being super important. I imagine some designers now feeling a bit uncomfortable, but I'm a designer. But I also know that designers should have a say in the copy, at least have a run at the first version. What I always think is important is to speak your target audience's language, in the copy, and then at the same time to keep it short. Even though we also just talked about making a landing page longer. Like I think if you write a paragraph of text for a landing page, you should look at it, and I'm very convinced that you can take out 20% of the text of that one paragraph and then make it better that way, just to make it more to the point.
Yeah, I think paragraphs are something definitely you should avoid. No one wants to do work in terms of being sold. So I think headings, bullet points, like scannable text is probably more ideal than long paragraphs in certain scenarios.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a place for paragraphs, for example, in the problem statement, where you try to, be to relate with your target audience, where you talk about, this certain problem, and you make them go like, yes, that's what I have. Let's keep scrolling this page because I'm curious to see what they offer as a solution. That's a place where you can probably have a paragraph, but also in FAQ sections and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And also something that I use also that I use widespread as well, is like a personal letter to the user. It's like it could be a couple paragraphs long, just like it's story based. So like, hey, you, enter persona here. I'm aware of this problem you have. I've had it too. I've crafted this solution to it, etc. And then here is the solution. So it seems more empathetic and more tailored to me if I'm the reader or the potential user of this product.
I mean, the storytelling makes sense that way also, that you start with the problem, you have a solution for that problem, and here's how the solution to that problem works. Like you start very big and then you go smaller and smaller. I mean, you shouldn't start your landing page with, well, it also works with Microsoft Office. Well, okay, but what are we talking about? Like that's something like a very specific feature that should go at the end of your landing page. You start with the benefits and then the features that make that benefit possible. And then as a part of the feature, you can mention something like, well, it works with Microsoft Office.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're buying the best sales technique on a landing page is selling the outcome, not the features. Like to your point, like we can get into it works with Microsoft Office at the end. So you're not quite sold yet. And if you need it to be, but it's what, after I use X product, I get X outcome.
Yeah.
And that could be the actual hook or a title of the landing page as well.
Yeah. That's true. Do you think some type of H1 catchphrases are overused?
No.
Do you think people?
No, I think I think they've been iterated over the years to know that they work. What happens sometimes is that we get bored and want to get crafty, and then something, and then you'll notice like, hey, I'm really tired of using these over 10 types of titles that have been working over the years. Let me craft a new one, and then you'll see the conversion rate plummet.
Yeah, because maybe then I'm too close to the fire, looking at landing pages too often. Because I also think that the selling the benefit part, like it makes sense, but it can also make your H1 of a landing page very vague. When you mention something like your management done in minutes, not weeks. Like, sure, I want my management to be done in minutes, not weeks, but I'm still not sure. Like, are you offering a assistant or a piece of software, or do you want to do everything and I don't have to do anything? Like that's still vague. I think. But at the same time, it also makes me want to find out more because I am kind of curious about it. So that's where I always have the discussion with customers. Like, how specific do you want to make the hero section?
I think it depends. I think the more focused it is, the more conversed. Like, for example, if I'm targeting product designers who live in Netherlands, sitting at a desk with a microphone as my heading.
Yeah, that's me.
It sounds like it sounds like I'm talking directly to you.
Yeah.
Versus like, great for designers. You probably feel less spoken to if it's more vague. However, it cuts off some of the audience. So like your total addressable market within that specific ad is going to be narrow, but it might convert higher.
Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, that's also, I think, a beginner's mistake to try to be too broad, like being afraid to cut people out because they're not a good fit. You're wanting to appeal to many people.
Plus, like, to be fair, you can run multiple ads to different landing pages that are tailored to different pieces of audience.
Yeah.
So if you do want to attract product designers in general, create 10 different variations of landing pages targeting those specific persona types.
Right.
Because you're generally not using just one single landing page and then never touching it. You're creating different variations for different cases. And also you're testing and iterating and changing and optimizing over time because you want to get the highest conversion rate possible.
Yeah. I don't think that's something we do enough. I'm not sure why. Not sure if that's like, it's not that hard to do an A/B test, right?
It's not.
Also, and it's not that expensive. But still, I don't see many of my clients actually do a ton of A/B testing.
I think you should. I heard this thing from Russell Brunson recently where he quoted someone, I can't remember the name, but essentially he was saying that running an A/B test is like giving yourself a raise every week.
Yeah. If it's a successful one, for sure.
For sure. If it's a successful one, like if you beat the last iteration, you've essentially give yourself a raise because you've converted at a higher rate.
And then it's an improvement you make, and it's going to work for a very long time. It's not just a one-time upgrade.
And also, like, why we do that is that you're never going to nail it the first time.
That's true. That's one of the myths that we discussed recently. UX designers, they know UX and they know everything, and the first try is going to be the best one, and they just know how it works. That's not the case.
Exactly. And then when you're testing, you're not, I think it's sometimes we fall into like, let's just redesign the entire landing page. But what you're doing is you're swapping out portions of it. So you're testing the header, 5 different versions. And then you'll test like the benefits, a couple different versions. Because if you completely redesign the entire landing page and then the conversion drops, or if it does better, you don't know what part of that new landing page is actually working.
Yeah. So keep it small. Like change the headline. That's it for an A/B test. Change the color of your button. That's one test. So let's say someone does click on a purchase button. You can get all sorts of, let's say, checkout pages. You could either have, I guess, something like a sign-up page, like create your account, but also a checkout in having your list of clothing that you just want to pay for. Different next steps, I guess, when you click the buy button. Do you have any best practices from that decade of experience?
I'll tell you one experiment that was surprising how well it did. And it was the smallest little tweak. It was actually 2 tweaks. So we had, it was an e-commerce site. There was a checkout process where you'd put in your billing address and then your credit card information.
Yeah.
After several different iterations, we tried so many, like shorter field length, longer, or showing different images, etc. What actually worked was making the background of the fields gray.
Really? Okay.
For some reason, the gray backgrounds on those specific fields increased the trust that facilitated more sign-outs or people filling out their credentials and then making the purchase.
Right.
On top of that, adding a small lock icon in the middle of the screen was the winning variation. It was a small, It wasn't anything big. It was a color gray plus a lock.
Okay.
Which
does the lock means secure?
Exactly.
Okay. Can you help paint a bit more of a picture, because we don't have a visual example here, and some people are just listening on a platform. You say like the text field having a gray background. Like, is that very subtle, like just off-white background, and what's the surrounding background of the whole form?
So not super light, not super dark, maybe somewhere in the middle. Probably in the lighter side of the middle, which everything's pretty visible. The backgrounds of the fields are not white. They're that same gray.
Okay. Yeah, I know. Because you mentioned like making the text fields gray. I assume you mean the background color of the text field, or did you mean the border?
The entire canvas was gray. So imagine you have on the left-hand side, you have a bunch of fields. The background of that area, it was gray, as well as the text field. As unaccessible, like it wouldn't pass the accessibility rules, but in that time period.
Interesting.
And in the middle to the right of it was a little lock. And then to the right was the total amount that you had to pay.
Right.
So the left-hand side was all gray. The right was numbers, essentially.
Right. Yeah, of course. Like your very common like checkout page structure.
Exactly.
Like one thing I think that's very closely related to the lock icon is to also have all sorts of icons for payment providers. Just to show like, hey, we accepted your payment method. That's also a good one. And also things like next day delivery and 30-day return policy, like all the little things that would put people at ease. Like, well, okay, if I don't like it, I can always return it in the next 30 days, which basically all of the things you just mentioned, except for the strange gray input fields. Like all the other things, they are all about trust and putting people at ease.
As well
That's
as
probably key.
PayPal was an interesting one. Like back in the day before PayPal was a thing, that was an interesting experiment. The fact that PayPal was an option to pay versus just entering your credit card information, which it makes sense now because there's a buffer between your payment and like PayPal is like this middle layer, which builds a bit more trust. But I think at the time, like with PayPal included into the checkout process was like a 20% lift on conversion. For some reason, I was like I know now it's the standard, but back in the day we didn't have that as an option. And now we have like Apple Pay and these different other facilitators.
Yeah, true. What I noticed for some of the designer info product stuff that I have is adding PayPal as a payment option increased conversion rates, mostly because not everyone has a credit card.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think it would also have increased the conversion rate if we added basically any payment method in addition to credit cards, because there are always people more comfortable using that new payment method compared to credit cards. But then again, you also shouldn't just add everything, because then that gets overwhelming with making your choice in the next step, choose your payment option. But it does show something interesting in terms of conversion, is that you have to be aware of your target audience's preferences for certain things. Can be the copy on the landing page, but also payment options and delivery options. And if you, for example, sell a service, you have to be aware if someone, as a next step, would like to do a live meeting, schedule your intro call, or if someone wants to do more async work, we'll add you to a Slack group or a Discord group, because people might bounce because of like what you say, like, okay, next step, the Zoom call. And they're like, well, I don't like it. I don't want to do a Zoom call. And then they will bounce, so that's a bit of user research that I think will also help with conversion.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, you have to research is like underrated, and sometimes we forget to do it. We are not the user, and we're not the expert, regardless of the job title that we hold.
Yeah.
Ask the user what they want, and then they'll tell you. High level, not always, but that'll get you closer to that conversion rate, that ideal conversion rate, rather than if you didn't do any at all.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. I mean, that's probably something worth an entire episode, is that I think you have, but we can discuss it very shortly here now, is that you have 3 main inputs to make a design decision. The first one is what users say. That's what you're telling us now. Like, I like to do this thing. The second one is what users actually do, because sometimes they say A, but they actually don't know they want something else. So what users do is things like you can measure it with analytics and stuff like Hotjar, where you can, and Post-Hawk, I think, is another one, where you just can see how people use your app. You can see if their mouse, their cursor, if it hovers a certain place quite long, it means that they're thinking, that kind of stuff. And then the third one is design knowledge and experience. You already mentioned, like, combined, we have 20 years of experience. Like, we probably know a thing or two, like, about what works and what doesn't. If you look at a certain page and I would ask you, like, what doesn't work here? And I think you can point out 5 things, and at least 3 out of those 5, fixing 3 out of those 5 things will mean an improvement in conversion rate. And then 2 out of 5 might be a surprise, like something unexpected, like, what you mentioned, making the text fields gray. Like, that's not something you would recommend blindly. That's something you have to figure out. So those 3 things I think are very important for ads, landing pages, checkout, like all the things we're discussing. Yeah. End of monologue.
No, it's true. Like, that being said, like, we have this experience, we know like what are to get it to a certain point. And like, to your point, it could be like, we know the 5 out of the 5 things to change, but depending on who you're targeting, maybe that 1 of the 5 needs to be a bit different to the background gray point. So that comes into the user research play, which is like getting it to that perfect or almost perfect level.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. So how about we're now on, like, we're discussing this in order of a user flow for you, a customer journey, right? Advertising, landing on a page, deciding to buy. Then you're on a checkout page, and on a checkout page, sometimes people try to sell me more.
Yes, yes. The famous upsell.
Yeah. Like, what are your thoughts there? Like, is that a dark pattern? Is that something shady? Are you abusing someone who's already in an emotional state of wanting to buy? Or is it actually helpful because you help people get a better result?
I think it's helpful. I mean, the pattern nowadays is to focus on one product instead of, like, if you imagine going to an e-commerce store, you have a bunch of plethora, like a suite of product that they have. Now, there's paralysis by analysis. There's too many options for me to choose. But if you're funneling me through to one specific product and you convince me that to purchase that one, and then you upsell me something that's similar or that solves a different problem, I think it's better.
Yeah.
First of all, it converts better. And also, I can decide to just skip it or not. So it's just, here's an option. You can buy this too. It's also helpful.
Yeah.
And then they're not like, they don't have that glazed look over their eyes where they have like 17 things to buy. Just like, you're just offering, here, people also buy this. And then it's a quick ad.
Yeah, that's true. Like, I think it works very well when ordering groceries. Like once a week, I get my groceries delivered, and I've been using the same account for years. So then I make my list, I click order, and then I get a little upsell list like, hey, didn't you forget these things? And then based on my purchase history, they recommend me very useful things. Like when I forgot, I don't know, block of cheese that I always get for, in my lasagna or whatever, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. I forgot it. Click add, and then it's purchased. But it's not something, an upsell in a traditional sense that they try and sell me something extra that I haven't used before. So in that case, it's useful. It gets very annoying when you order a pizza and you are hungry and it's already, you made your list, like everyone's pizza is on the list. And then in the end, they're like, do you want to have this side dish? No. Okay. And then next screen, do you want a drink? No. And then they ask you like 3 or 4 times if you want something extra. Mm-hmm. Then it becomes very annoying.
Yes, you can abuse that tactic.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's it. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that there's a risk of you being a silly dark pattern designer.
But I mean, the main goal, I mean, you can be sleazy about it by adding 5 different steps of like, oh, do you want this? No, I want this. But like, the truth is that you've gotten their attention. They've purchased from you. Now they're in a buying state.
Yeah.
It's better to ask them now than later, because they have, like, to be fair, they have other things to do. But you've stopped the scroll, you've gone through the funnel or the flow, you've had them purchase. Now's the time to get them to buy, because they're going to go on. As soon as they leave, they're going to go on with their day.
Yeah. So it's now or never is what you're saying.
Essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. One thing to keep in mind, and that's something I've learned the hard way as well, is that you can also go too far if you're a designer and you're offering services where you tell someone like, okay, I'm going to do all your branding. By the way, do you want a logo too? That's extra. That's just not smart. Feels like I've had comments like back in the day when I was a junior designer from customers like, I thought this was included, So yes, upsell, very powerful, smart thing to do during checkout, but don't enter bad words that will get us censored.
I got you on that one.
Get it? Yeah, exactly. So don't be a bad person there, be smart. I mean, we're talking about things to do, and now without really realizing it, I'm talking about things not to do. Like, do you have any lessons found out the hard way? Like things that just don't work you want to talk about?
I had some frustrating lessons.
Yeah.
Maybe more specifically on ads, that it doesn't have to be pretty or on brand.
Really?
Which is frustrating, because I think the highest converting ads I've ever done have looked the worst. Like someone who doesn't have a design degree could have essentially designed the ad that I created, and it converted over my highly manicured typography, white space balanced, CTA with the roundiest corners and the brightest
gradients, drop shadows. It probably was purple and used Inter font.
Comic Sans, maybe? And I'm not joking.
Yeah, nice.
I am not joking about that one. Yeah, like the main goal is to stop the scroll, and sometimes like, not that you're designing something crappy on purpose.
Oh, no, of course.
It just, however it looks, whatever converts is the best design, regardless if it's aesthetically not pleasing.
Yeah, true. I mean, that's something that can make a group of designers feel unworthy. If it's not pretty, I mean, then anyone else could have made it. But that's not true, because designers are very much like tinkerers and builders and crafters that make something possible to, I mean, it's not about being pretty, it's about making it work. But then also I'm thinking, like, why not both, I guess for conversion rates, it's probably about the numbers. It's less about feelings, it's about numbers.
Yeah, that's the designer in you and in all of us. We always want to make it look great, but sometimes we got to hold back. And I'm curious, like on your end, something that you learned that you didn't think would go that certain way.
I thought that sometimes I want to be too clever about hiding things. We want to make things less overwhelming, lower the cognitive load. Let's hide everything behind collapsibles or tabs or that kind of stuff, or modals, like, click that question mark bubble and then you get a modal with all the extra info. And then, after extensive user testing, turned out people say, like, I want just to have a big overview. I don't like clicking and hiding and showing stuff. I just want to see it all so I can make my decision. So you can over optimize because of a design theory, and the design theory being people get overwhelmed. So let's hide stuff they don't need to see. And especially for big purchases, people need to see everything. They have
That's true.
Know all the risks and that kind of stuff. Yeah, so that's my thing. You can be too much of a designer at times.
That's fair. You want the click that they click on is the CTA instead of the progressive exposure you have there.
Yeah. I mean that's it. It's and you'll figure that out by talking to people.
Yes.
I mean, I found it out that way. So that's my main tip, or the anti-lesson, basically, like the things not to do.
Speak to users. Yeah. That's the insight here.
Yeah. I mean, that's something you learn in school, but it is true.
It is.
Yeah. I mean, this feels like it's a real master class on conversion rates. Like I think I've learned a thing or two or three from you just now in what has been like 45 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, I think it's likewise. I think that's another insight as well. Collaboration. Some people, you don't hold all the knowledge. It's good to pull it from different sources as well.
Yeah, I mean that's my risk, but quite frankly, because I'm like currently right now I'm home alone. It's the end of the day. Daughter is at her grandma's, wife is at work, so I'm just sitting here. Like, I'm not in a co-working space, and you can get stuck in your own ways. Like, if you're just design the whole day, but having a call like this, basically, or maybe just with a group of designers, or like once a month have a group review session or something. I think that's very useful, just to have a fresh insight.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%.
Speaking of learning things from other designers, next episode we're going to talk about UX coaching, which is basically the same thing. You talk to a designer and you explain your challenges and you get some help, some fresh insights. We're going to talk about like the most common tips, the best tips, the most insightful stuff that we've seen from you and I, both being a coach for entry-level designers, I guess. I'm not sure if you coach other designers as well, but it's mostly been entry-level designers and career switchers for me.
Junior and mid-level, I think, my end. But we're gonna. I guess we're following the theme of spilling the sauce, I guess.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Well, that's very interesting because we think that's the best thing to do, we think that's what people want, people listening to this Design Table podcast. But we are open for feedback, suggestions. Like if you have, I'm sure people have questions where we look at each other and we're like, that's something we can fill an entire episode with, an unexpected question. So, feel free to let us know, right? I think, we're open for that.
Write something in the comments, send us a message via LinkedIn, Twitter, on all the things.
Yeah.
Love new ideas. So we can talk about.
Most people send us questions on LinkedIn, so far, at least.
So far,
yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure if people have a preference, but this is basically also about conversion. Like you have to give people a few options, but not too many that they get paralysis. Yeah. Oh no, I'm serious about it. Like you can get overwhelmed by choice. Yeah. So let's try LinkedIn. That's somewhere in the description.
We'll put it in the description for sure.
Yeah.
We'll put our links to our respective LinkedIn and send us a message with ideas or just to start up a chat. I think that's great.
Yeah. Yes. And what's also going to be very helpful for us, if you have a moment, is to give us a 5-star review on, what are all the main platforms? Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the big places, all of them.
All of them. We're there. If you think we're somewhere, we are.
Yes. Because then the thing is, you help us, but then we are able to help more people because the good review will probably get us pushed to more feeds and that kind of stuff. And then we can help other people. So it's you helping us helping more people, which is, I think, beneficial for all.
It's the end goal, I think.
Yeah. It's about giving back to the community.
Great. Well, this is a great episode. I love this one.
Yeah. Same here.
Giving it all the advice. I learned a couple of things from you, learned a couple of things from me. And if there's any hot tips, send us those as well. We'll love to hear some.
Right. All right. Well, then I'll see you. I'll hear you in 2 weeks for the next episode about UX coaching.
All right. See you then.
Bye.
That was a great episode. So if you like this content and want to hear more, please like and subscribe.
Yeah. And if you want to see more, please go to designtablepodcast.com, Spotify, Apple Music, all the big players and more.